Welcome to the Evolution Magazine Live Series. It is May 20th, year 2021, and we are broadcasting live from Happy Rock Farms here in Kansas City, Missouri. Tonight's show topic is Show Me Mo Women and Medical Marijuana. Our guests tonight include Leah Maurer from the Weed Blog, with Tanya Roth of Canna Matriarchs, and our own woman behind the camera, Kat King, making her live series on-screen debut. Our show will get underway in just a few moments, but first, a word from our sponsors.
Headquartered in Kansas City, Clover is a cannabis-infused product manufacturer that believes in safe, consistent, and quality cannabis products for Missouri's medical marijuana patients. As the extractor, infuser, and wholesaler of their own products, they ensure patients are getting exactly what they are reading on the label. No chemicals, no funny business. Clover offers a variety of cannabis-infused products ranging from gummies and beverages to vape pens and concentrates, and offered from a variety of companies including Keef, Funny Bone, Wunna, and Robots. Whatever consumption method you prefer, they've got it. At Clover's facility in Kansas City, they're excited to announce their new, high-quality, cannabis-infused Clover chocolate bars and bonbons with the help of chocolatier Christopher Elbow. Clover is excited to continue to launch brand new products in the Missouri medical marijuana market.
Getting a medical marijuana patient recommendation just got easier with Elevate Holistics. Using HIPAA-compliant telemedicine software, Elevate Holistics enables patients like you to receive medical marijuana recommendations from the comfort of their own homes. Here's how it works. First, visit elevate-holistics.com to book your appointment using our online schedule. Then complete the intake forms in our confirmation email. Finally, visit with the doctor using the link in your confirmation email. It's that simple. Book an appointment today.
The Missouri Cannabis Industry Association has been our longest-running show sponsor, while providing quality education over many topics in partnership with area cannabis professionals. MCIA is dedicated to a free cannabis market to create supplies and prices that are patient-friendly, with initiatives to support adult-use cannabis, to protect home growers' rights, and expand the caregiving program. Go to mocia.org to learn about memberships, to learn about their certified caregiving program, and learn how to get involved. Thank you, MCIA, for being a show sponsor.
COCO Dispensaries and the Cannabis Care Team presents Cannabis BOOTCAMP. Do you want to know more about endocannabinoid system, methods of medicating, cannabinoids and terpenes, and Missouri cannabis industry? Do you want to become a bud tender and to help patients to find the best medicine for their needs? Or maybe, do you want to know how to manage your patient privacy and comfortability, the benefits of offering patient consultation, and the importance of consuming low and slow? April Hatch, Matt Cascio, Heidi Trout, Skyler Thomas, and Jamie Dennis will be there to teach you all you need to know to become a respected bud tender. Text Bud Tender to 660-202-6234 or scan this QR code to register and learn more. And join us on June 12, 2021 at 1225 Fellows Place, Columbia, Missouri 65201.
Tonight's video is provided by Kat King Films. Check this out. Kat King Films is offering promotional content, commercials, training videos, wedding videos, and documentary-style video production at an affordable price. A free consultation comes with every project to ensure that it is personalized to your brand. Check out previous projects by exploring the different sections on the newly launched website at katkingfilms.com.
Hello, Evolution friends, family, Missouri patients. Welcome to the Evolution Live series. We are shooting live again here from Happy Rock Farms on Main Street in Kansas City. We have a great show for you tonight. As always, we have some major influencers on the women's side of the industry. Tanya Roth is joining us live here in the studio, and then we have Leah Maurer joining us via Zoom here shortly. Before we dive into that show, though, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors. Clover, thanks so much for sponsoring the series this month. We'll be doing a live show from Clover's facility next Thursday with chocolatier, local KC chocolatier, Christopher Elbow, live from their facility and talking about his history in the chocolatier industry and how they combined and met and some of the products that they're going to be rolling out here shortly. So tune into that show next week. Thanks Clover for sponsoring the series this month. Also Elevate Holistics, they're going to be giving away a free certification tonight. If you have a friend or a loved one or yourself, if you're needing a recertification or your very first certification, just tag yourself or tag a friend in the comments with the word CERT. You'll get entered into that competition to win that free certification. Also, we're going to be giving away 2 free gift cards to COCO Dispensaries. I think I did 3, but it's 2. So like 2 free gift cards to COCO Dispensaries. Tag a friend. You get entered into that competition as many times as you would like, as many friends as you tag. You get entered into that competition each time. And also MCIA, one of our longest show-running sponsors. Thank you for sponsoring the series this month. And by the way, coming up next month, we're going to be doing a show with MCIA with Northwest Missouri State University has a new cannabis curriculum they're rolling out. With Green Flower, we're going to be talking with the program developer from the university as well as the CEO of Green Flower on that show. That'll be the first Thursday of next month. So thanks MCIA for sponsoring the show. Normally we have a guy that helps us with interviewing the guests rather. Eric McSwain couldn't make it tonight, so I'm filling in for him. So I need your help at home. If you have questions for these guests, please, this is an interactive show. James will take those questions, he'll put them up on the monitor, we'll bring those up to Tanya or to Leah. Please be a part of the show, help this thing roll because I didn't even come prepared. I don't even have any questions in front of me here, so we're just going to wing it. So without further ado, I want to welcome our first guest here, Tanya Roth from the Canamatriarchs.
Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Clay.
So we'll talk real briefly and then we'll introduce Leah, but tell me tell me more about Canamatriarchs. What do you guys got going on?
Canamatriarchs is a Missouri nonprofit organization. We are working on our federal nonprofit status. We are a women's organization. We predominantly support mothers that are proponents of cannabis. So our goal and our mission is to end the stigma against canna moms, pretty much. Try to end all the fears, bring mothers out in the open, bring them across that threshold that, we've been kind of tied behind for so long, and influence the cannabis market here in Missouri as well.
Right on. And so just to touch a little bit more on that, and we'll go into this a little bit deeper, but being someone like yourself who is a canna mom and like Leah, who we'll introduce here shortly, there's a lot of extra stigma that gets put on you as a mother because you're taking care of kids, you're a wife, you're also handling your own business endeavors, right? So, but it's a little extra pressure because there's still that stigma out there. If you're a mother and you're supposed to be taking care of these kids, well, you shouldn't be partaking of cannabis, right?
You're a bad mom.
Yeah, right. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. But before we do that, I want to introduce our Zoom guest, Leah Maurer, is on the line here. Hey, Leah, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
So I met Leah. A lot of probably our viewers have seen you speak at several events back way before COVID came and kind of transformed things for our lives. But that's where I first met you, was I think at an MCIA event, speaking there. And you have a wonderful, amazing story that I love to hear. And for our viewers who do not know that story, I just want to give you a chance to kind of like talk about what led you to where you're at now and give us the whole spiel.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. Also, for your viewers that don't know, I assume most of your viewers probably get your magazine, but I have the most recent copy right here.
Yeah.
And this is my column that is in the Evolution mag every month. It's called Ask Leah. I write about a variety of consumer-facing or patient-facing issues in an effort to really push the movement forward there. I'm a cannabis activist first. I can tie my activism back to any single job I wear in the cannabis industry. And I'm just really thrilled to be here alongside you and alongside, people like Tanya that are doing the really hard boots on the ground work there in Missouri. I'm just really happy to be here and appreciate you all having me. My story with cannabis started in Missouri. I'm a St. Louis native. I'm a proud Mizzou graduate. And I lived in Columbia, Missouri for quite a while before we moved out where I live now in Portland, Oregon. In March of 2009, my husband and I had our home raided in Columbia because we were growing cannabis in our basement. As you all can imagine, in 2009, in the middle of Missouri, it was not received very well at all. We had 3 different law enforcement bodies invade our home. We had the Columbia Police Department, we had the Missouri State Patrol, and we had the Mustang Task Force, probably about a dozen armed men into our home, raiding the house, totally violating our civil liberties. And mind you, we had no priors on our records. We lived in the Vanderveen subdivision in Columbia. For those of you that are familiar, you know what that looks like. All paved sidewalks. Houses are kind of cookie cutter, replicas of each other. And it was a new subdivision at the time. The way that things went down in our home that day was something that I had only seen in movies at that point or read about in the news. And it was not in a situation like the one that I was in. It was in, much different looking environments than what what I was living in at the time. Our 2 oldest children were 1 and 3 at the time. Thankfully, they were at my best friend's house because I was in the middle of having a miscarriage. I was denied medical attention. I had a shotgun held to my head. I was, put in I guess like holding or whatever you want to call it. They never did cuff me, but they held a gun to me until they were sure, I guess, that I wasn't going to do anything. Thankfully, I was not arrested that day, but my partner Travis was, and he still to this day wears the scarlet letter F for felon because of this run-in with the law. Less than 3 months after that happened, we decided to move out here to Portland, Oregon, where the drug laws were a little friendlier, where we didn't have to be in fear for our life, for doing something that we did not see as ethically or morally wrong. It was a huge life change for me. I probably would still be living in Missouri to this day if that had not happened to me. But it did give me kind of a path in life that I was not on at that point. I had always been an activist. I had always, tried to push things forward. My degree was in education. I was very involved in the teachers union in Missouri. I was really on path to be the president of our chapter there in Columbia through the public schooling system there. And was always kind of had that in me. But this sort of gave me a new purpose because of a few things. One, it opened my eyes up to all of the social injustices that were intertwined in cannabis prohibition and the overall drug war that I had not really experienced up until that point, and certainly not experienced firsthand. It really opened my eyes to the idea of white privilege, of class privilege, of generational wealth privilege, of societal privilege, many things that I had had my entire life that I really was a little oblivious to up until that point. And about a year after the whole raid and everything went down, when we were located out here in Portland, Oregon, we came back for Travis's hearing, and he was given suspended exposition of sentencing of 15 years if he violated his probation, but he did not have to go to jail or prison at that time. So basically that means if he had violated his probation, he would be going to prison for 15 years. That was scary enough for both of us to have to swallow. However, we both were very aware at that time and became even more aware as things unfolded after that, that if we were not white and if that he did not have a good lawyer and if we had not had family support and generational wealth to support us through that time, we would not be in the same position we were in. He would have absolutely gone to prison had any of those factors been different. So once we were out here and kind of had our feet on the ground and had made a sort of a new life for ourselves out here, we were able to sort of, pick the pieces up and get things, back together for ourselves. Our 2 older kids were growing when they were about almost 5 and 7. We had a 3rd child, so we have 3 kids now. This is them.
Oh, beautiful.
They're now almost 16 and almost 14 and 9.5. So they've really been along this whole journey with us, and I'm sure we'll get to talking about the whole mom thing in just a minute. But back to the whole move out here to Oregon. So in 2013, Travis and I had watched 2 legalization measures try and fail here in Oregon at that time. It's just the campaigns weren't done well, the premise was not done well, and they just didn't work out. But it was obvious to us that the public here was ready. Around that same time, it was actually before 2013 when we started an organization called Show Me Cannabis, which some of you might be familiar with. Please check out the Facebook page. It's still very active right now. And that was through grassroots efforts alone. And we really wanted to work on reform efforts there in Missouri, but it being 2012, I think at the time when we founded Show Me Cannabis, it was definitely, the public was not ready for it, but the public here in Oregon was. So we decided to kind of put, all the eggs in this basket for that time being. And we co-founded an organization called New Approach Oregon. New Approach Oregon is the organization that Measure 91 was founded, drafted, and the campaign was run out of, which is what successfully legalized adult use cannabis here in Oregon in 2014. During the time of the campaign, I founded a group called Moms for Yes on Measure 91 through grassroots efforts alone. And after just a couple weeks, I had a couple hundred people that were just following the Facebook group. And at that time, the campaign decided to start partnering with me and utilizing the group and having me be a spokesperson for the campaign because they saw the value in it. Like I said, I'd always been an activist. I had always been a connector. I'd always been a big believer in community growth, community development, and outreach, things like that. But this was the first time in my life that I had really seen that kind of traction happen so quickly. It just seemed like these parents were coming out of the woodwork in support of legalized cannabis for all kinds of different reasons. And I'm sure, as Tanya knows, because she's talked to so many people, there's so many reasons, and I won't go into the list, but it was just incredible to me to see the motion and the traction that it got out here in Oregon during that time. So I think it was only, our voting day that year was like on November 4th, and in the middle of October, the communications chair for the campaign asked me to do a press conference. And this is me being someone who at that point in my life, I had been a stay-at-home mom for about 10 years. I was not working outside the household. I had 3 young children, and that was my primary focus. I had no experience in public speaking. I had no experience really with doing this kind of thing, but the campaign felt very strongly that this is something they wanted me to do because the No on 91 campaign had pulled together a press conference of some moms and some law enforcement, and they had flown this mom out from Colorado to basically say, don't legalize weed, the sky is falling here, everything's bad, don't do it. And so they were like, we need you to sort of counteract this press conference. So they helped me a little bit with some talking points and stuff like that. I gathered, some moms to come to the press conference with me. They brought their kids. We had a legislator there, and we all talked about it. And there was, for me personally, it was definitely a moment in my life I will never forget because, like I said, this is me having no interview experience, having no public speaking experience. And they had the Washington Post there. They had every single local news station. They had OPE, which is the same thing as, the public broadcasting station there. They had, several other news authorities there, and they were all looking at me and what I was going to say. And I basically gave my pitch as to why I thought cannabis should be legal and why responsible parents should agree with me. And that ended up being, and I only say this with confidence because I had several politicians, I had the communications director from the campaign, the executive director of the campaign, and many other people that were involved in other organizations that helped push the law forward tell me that was absolutely one of the most pivotal moments in the campaign. Our polling actually changed after that press conference. And we believe that if it wasn't for you coming out and, putting your neck out there and really giving this voice to the other parents that are out there that felt like you, I don't think we'd have legal cannabis here. And so it was a very empowering moment for me as someone who had just been a stay-at-home mom of like, wow, this works. Like, it happened. Holy cow, you know? And so since then, it really changed my mind about women and mothers especially that work in the cannabis space, or that are cannabis consumers or advocates, or, you know, you fill in the blank, anyone that's associated with it for whatever reason, that we as women and mothers especially, I believe, in this movement have one of the most collectively powerful voices when it comes to cannabis law reform and when it comes to the movement in general.
Absolutely.
And I believe the same thing here as we're talking about, you know, the industry. And I love the title of the session tonight, because that's absolutely the truth. The more women we can get into this industry, the more women we can get as leaders in this movement, the more successful it will be, and it will be successful more quickly than it would be otherwise. And so I'm just really thrilled to be here and can only share my own experience and the testimony of my own story with other women in hopes that it will inspire them to do things as well. And what I always tell women when they talk to me, they're like, oh, I can't, you know, start a grassroots movement. I can't work for a nonprofit. I can't be a part of a campaign. And that's fine. And all of those things matter. All of those things matter a lot, but it also matters just as much sitting down at the dinner table with your extended family and saying, what do you think about legal cannabis? What do you think about cannabis as medicine? What do you think about the atrocities of the drug war in all of these communities that have been devastated for decades because of the racist criminalization of cannabis and the drug war overall? Simple as that. You know, talk to your book club, talk to your, you know, extended family, talk to your friends, whatever social circles you run in. There's enough evidence out there. A quick Google search can pull up all kinds of resources for you about cannabis as medicine or any of the other topics that I just named off. And so instead of being the spokesperson, kind of like I was all the way back in 2014 out here in Oregon, and telling people my story and my experience and the thoughts that I had as a parent, we actually have proof of a lot of that now, and we have validated research that we can pass around. And once people see that, they can't unsee it. Then they have that knowledge. If they're still choosing to, you know, turn a blind eye or be ignorant to the situation, that's their choice. But they can't unsee it, because this is where we're at now, and that's what's happening. And I believe that women and mothers especially play a huge role, not just in cannabis policy reform or advocacy, but in lifting the stigma and normalizing this plant in general.
Yeah, it could start small. It could start very small. You know, your story, by the way, is an amazing story. For someone to go through all the challenges you went through and then have to be the pivotal force in another state and to take on that responsibility while you're raising a family is incredible. And I always love to hear you tell that story. But you're right, it can start small. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to just do exactly what you did, because what you did was very big, and it can start as small as a dinner table conversation with the extended family, like you said, of people that don't agree with you. You can start those conversations. You can, you know, it doesn't have to be a fight or an argument. It can be, here's how I feel about it here. That's fine. And then you'll see them in a couple more weeks, you know, have a similar conversation. And over time, that's going to maybe change one family's, you know, family group's mindset about it, or erase the stigma in one particular family. And if everybody's doing that, then, you know, there's going to be huge changes. Tanya, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I agree with you 100% there. My father and my stepmother, I mean, they're prime examples. They would have not opened their eyes to cannabis until they saw what it did for my husband, Doug, when he was going through cancer. So, you know, I agree, Leah, they have to see some of these situations, and they have to see and hear these stories. And Canna Matriarchs is another example of kind of starting small, like Clay was saying. We started as a Facebook group, and it wasn't anything that was really ever intended to be anything more than that. But as I saw these women coming in, and the number of women coming in, and mothers who were looking for this platform, they needed a safe place where they could feel comfortable. Crossing the threshold is what I have heard from them, from multiple members, is they were able to cross that threshold because we gave them that safe environment to know that they were supported. So long in this whole cannabis journey, moms have always kind of been the last ones that were thought about, I guess, or the last ones, you know, that we are the first ones to judge, but the last ones, to get any help. And so we were able to do that. And one of the things that I've noticed here lately is I went to a dispensary here recently, and I was talking to the general manager, and he said, believe it or not, the demographics of our clients are predominantly women. We have more women coming into this dispensary than we see men, and that is a huge statement to me, because that goes into what you were saying, Leah, how women, mothers particularly, have a very strong ability to influence and move the cannabis market and the dynamics of it. And especially here in Missouri, when you have everything new and budding and blossoming and things that are constantly wanting to change. You have parental protections, you have employee protections. We have mothers that have taken their children that are in the middle of a seizure to Children's Mercy Hospital, and they've been turned away because they were honest about their patient or their child being a medical patient. They were turned away, and they were not giving, this child was not given the testing that he needed. And that is a very sad reality of what we still face in the cannabis industry, and one area where I think mothers and women's organizations can have a very powerful voice in making a movement and a change when it comes to healthcare providers, employers, when we're talking about adoption agencies and parents trying to go through adopting a child. One of the questions we get all the time is, can I adopt a child if I am a legal medical patient? Well, that's an open-ended question, because there's no real answer to it, because there's no legislation that addresses it. So until we can do that, there's a lot. There's just a lot that still needs to be done. And I agree that women and mothers have a very loud voice, especially when it's brought together collectively. And we can make waves, and we can make a lot of change. And so, Leah, listening to your story is women like you motivate the hell out of me. And definitely want me to do more and more every single day. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Can I piggyback on a couple things here, Clay?
Sure.
Just a couple of things. So, one point I want to make first, what Tanya was just saying, is, I've been doing a lot of research on this, and women actually drive 70 to 80% of all consumer purchases. They're a huge voice when you think about purchasing. You think about, and women lots of times, when they find, I don't even want to say women, I just think people in general, like when they find a brand or a store or whatever it is, a client, someone that provides a service, any of that, a doctor, once they find someone that they like or a brand that they like, that's what they tend to stick with. They like it, they might try new things, and if they find something else, they might go with it. But if they find something they like, that's what they're going to go with. And women control a lot of the purchasing decisions for their households, and they generally also control a lot of the healthcare decisions for their households. So they're very important to market to and to consider, as these companies in Missouri are sort of coming above ground, and, the industry continues to emerge there. They're absolutely a consumer demographic that you want to consider. The other thing that Tanya said that I wanted to piggyback on is, the first thing, obviously, like once you talk about like lifting the stigma and coming out of the green closet and having the conversation with people, whether it be a big conversation like one with your legislators or a smaller conversation with your family around the dinner table, first you got to have your research, right? So of course I'm going to direct you to my website, theweedblog.com, to find some of those resources. There are plenty there, but first you have your resources, so you kind of have your ducks in a row. Second thing you do is you find your community, because it's really, really hard to want to talk about these things when you don't feel like you have anybody backing you. So that's where you find people like Tanya. You go to the Canna Matriarchs, where you find those other like-minded women, or like, I'm a big fan of Toketivity. If you guys haven't heard of them, go to toketivity.com. They're an incredible woman-owned, woman-based, women-centric cannabis organization that provides a huge network and community for women that just want to have a safe space to talk about their cannabis use or to ask questions about, whatever it is, cannabis and breastfeeding, cannabis, for children, cannabis for their mothers, whatever it is, they just want to have a safe space to have it. So once you have your resources and then you have your community, then you're ready to do that outreach. outreach, right? Then you kind of have your confidence, you're ready to go do that. And, building the community is huge. And I would encourage everybody there in Missouri to absolutely, that is interested in this, to go and follow Tanya and the work that she's doing with the Cannimatrix. They're doing really cool stuff. They have a beautiful, wonderful, very supportive of women there. She let me be a special out-of-state member, so I'm super happy about that. I would also encourage everyone that's attending the live stream tonight to get out their cell phone right now and to text MOMS to 420-420. That is going to be the vehicle I will be using as I continue to go to do work in Missouri, and as I actually get back to Missouri and have speaking engagements and attend events and do some work there, both policy-wise and in the industry. Please text MOMS to 420-420 and you will be up to date on all of that. And if you do it, an article that I just published today will pop up, and the headline of the article is "Once Cannabis is normal for mothers, it will then be accepted by the rest of society." And I absolutely believe that wholeheartedly. And I see Tanya shaking her head.
Yeah.
And I think most people would agree. I think Nick would agree with that as well.
Most definitely. And
yes.
I think we had a few questions, James, if you want to pull those back up here for you, Leah. So first question, Leah, who has been the toughest person to convince along your journey, and how did you do it? So back to the table conversation, or maybe it was with a senator or a Republican, who knows, but what's your advice, or what's your response to that question?
Well, first of all, I want to, acknowledge that I sit, now especially, I sit in a very privileged position in terms of, like, I live in a state that has a fully legalized adult use cannabis program and a mature market. So I can speak about it very freely here. I talk to my children about it. I talk to the other, parents that I'm friends with. I'll talk to just about anybody about it now. So that being said, I'm not afraid of getting my kids taken away from me for talking about cannabis or for having it on my person, because it's legalized here. I know that, states like Missouri, and there's other states that have varying laws of, medical legalization or decriminalization. We have to remember there's a lot of prohibition states out there, and even the states that aren't prohibition states, it's still so heavily stigmatized that you're facing a lot of trouble if you even want to utter the words. So, I want to acknowledge the position that I'm at. I would say, so when I was campaigning with Measure 91, I was really like, I'm doing this 100%. I was the president of the PTA at my kid's school at the time, and I was wearing my Yes on Measure 91 shirt to the PTA meetings, to carpool, everything like that. And one of the most, I don't want to call it difficult conversations I had, but it was with another parent who actually lived in my neighborhood and had kids, in the same school as mine. And she was a nurse, by her profession, and had been for years. And she had a lot of concern about legalized cannabis because of the things she had seen in her work. Because when I say cannabis use and cannabis consumption, I say it with the preface that we're talking about responsible cannabis consumption here. We're talking about people that are responsible members of society, but that are using cannabis as medicine, or they're using cannabis as an alcohol alternative, or for whatever adult use, mental health, whatever it is they're using it for, whatever it is they're doing it responsibly. So the conversation I had with her really revolved around her concerns she had as a nurse. And, in talking with her about, basically, a lot of the way I see it is like, if it's not legalized, people are still getting it anyways. They're just getting it in other places that are not legalized places. And so there's a lot more room for crime there. There's a lot more room for, bad product there and all the other things. And so, one of my big, points to her was, now cannabis is going to be sold in stores where people have to show an ID, or they have to show a card, where they are registered to get this. And so it's going to be much safer, and it's going to be placed in locked and sealed containers. It's going to go home in a locked and sealed bag, and as long as these people are being responsible with it in their homes, it's a much better system. She was probably one of the more difficult ones, but I was really happy that she felt okay enough coming up to me and actually asking me about it, because she was the kind of person I wanted to talk with. I love talking to people that agree with me, but when you're talking about actually making change, you want to talk to the people that don't agree with you, or the people that are really skeptical, because those are the minds that we need to change, or that we at least need to give that validated, research to, so that they can make up, their minds for themselves.
Sure, and when you can have the patience to talk to some of these people that have some of the more radical, still stigmatic beliefs, that's the key thing there, is having the patience to not laugh in their face, or discourage them from continuing the conversation with you at least. And so that's another important thing for people watching at home is, have patience with some of these people. It's not their fault that they're still caught in this government affair. We were all just affected by for so long, So have patience with them. Talk to them just, very nicely, and become their friend. They're not going to trust you if you don't have that equal respect for them as people. So another question here from Jamie Rainwater. If there is one takeaway you hope someone could take from what you do, what would that be?
I think it's really that, it's going to take everybody to push this big wheel forward. It's going to take everybody to push this big wheel forward of ending cannabis prohibition on a federal level and legalizing it right, where we're doing it the right way in terms of medicine, and we're doing it the right way in terms of equity. I think the biggest takeaway I would like people to have is that, one of them, and like Tanya kind of touched on it, is one, you're not alone. You are not the only person that feels like that, even though you may be in some small town or some county or in a prohibition state where that's how you're feeling. I promise you're not alone. And two, that every conversation matters, whether it's with one person or it's in a room of 5,000 people. Sharing your experience, sharing your story, having those facts and that research to present to people is just as important. And if you can change only one mind, that still matters. It's all about going grassroots and really, doing the work on the outreach and, helping people really, like Clay was just saying, we have, as the American public, we have literally been fed decades of propaganda and conjecture about this plant. So a lot of people out there don't know the history of prohibition to begin with. They don't know that cannabis used to be legal and it was this huge, racial campaign to try to get it to be illegal to begin with. They don't know the history of prohibition. They also don't know that cannabis can be used as an alternative to a ton of pharmaceuticals that the pharmaceutical industry is out there pushing, having, first of all, just educating yourself, because it's hard to lift up all those layers of lies that we've been told for years and years. Just say no, things like that. Yeah. Being able to educate yourself first. And, the biggest takeaway is once you have that, I do think, I'm here in Oregon in a mature market. You all are there in Missouri in a new medical market, so you have some freedom to talk about it. I think that it is a almost like a civic duty that those of us that live in a legalized state have to advocate for those people that don't have the voice to be able to do so, whether it be because they're in prison, whether it be because they're in fear of having their children taken away, or whether it just be because they are just scared that, their friends or their family are going to not speak with them again or not think of them as the same because they have, these thoughts about it. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I always want people to take, is that every bit of it matters. But I do think all of you should be in touch with your legislators too, because they are your voice on the Hill and at every state capital. So if you don't know who your state and local legislators are, get on your state homepage and find out who they are, because they're the ones representing you, and let them know what you think.
Perfect. And I just want to go back to right before the legislator thing. You were talking more about having those conversations with the family members that may not know that you consume. So Missouri is at that infancy stage where you have all these mothers who have been hiding it potentially from their extended family, from anyone who is a part of their child's day-to-day care, because they're still it's still new, right? So other states have gone far surpassed that, and it's part of the norm. So Missouri, unfortunately, is still needing support groups like the Canna Matriarchs and mothers that are putting themselves out there to help say, hey, it's okay to be a mother, to take care of your kids, and to have these conversations with the family members that don't agree with you. We'll be here. We'll support your efforts. we're a part of this in a community. Is that right?
Well, and we're still great mothers. Like, we're not bad mothers. That's the thing that we're trying to portray. And the fact that judgment is even out there is pretty asinine to me. However, we have been all fed years and years and years of reefer madness. So that's going to kind of come with that territory. But I do think every day in every state and every group that becomes legal and that grows from this, we do change that conversation a little bit. And a lot of it you can see in research, which is one area where America is really, really lacking right now, is cannabis research, because, a lot of the naysayers are going to go to that. We don't have the research to support this. Same with doctors. Every physician you talk to, they don't have the research to support this. Well, believe it or not, Israel right now is actually doing a research study on children and ADHD in cannabis. That is huge. Do you think we have anything like that going on in America? No. But if we have a big collaboration of mothers, if we can make CannaMatriarchs nationwide and work with all the other organizations out there, maybe that is something that we could bring up. Maybe that is something that we could force to happen here, because it needs to happen. When we have that research, we have a much better argument when we do go into our doctors. I was just seen at the hospital yesterday, and I was in excruciating pain. I was wearing my CannaMatriarch shirt when I went into the hospital. I was denied all pain medication. And my husband was wearing his Kansas City Cannabis shirt. Denied all pain medication. I was screaming in pain. I'm not the only one that's been in that situation. And a lot of the times it also happens to children that are minor patients, because mothers want to be open with their doctors, right? We want to be able to talk about this. When I was pregnant with my first son, I chose to use cannabis for morning sickness. My doctor, I told him about it. He was great with it. Do you think it changed anything with the state rules and DHSS, or Department of Family Services coming to our house and visiting me in the hospital? No. And that is probably one of the main questions that we get a lot in our organization, is asking other mothers, okay, what happened when you did this, or what happens if I do this or that? And they shouldn't have to go necessarily to this group. They should be able to openly talk about that to their physicians, and their physicians have the research to say, actually, yes, for hypermenses gravidum, cannabis actually does work better than, this medication over here that could potentially, Zofran, I believe it is, that can potentially cause birth defects. I'm sorry, I did my research, and a lot of these other mothers do too, and they look at these medications that they're going to be given, and they make a responsible decision for their fetus. They're dealing with something in this pregnancy that is causing them to lose weight. It's causing them to not have the nutrients to develop their child in the womb. Are they going to take this pharmaceutical that has this side effect risk, or are they going to take something else that is natural, that is not shown to have any adverse reactions? Like, we do have studies out there that show that, but they're not American studies. So doctors here are going to be like, psh, don't talk about that Jamaica study. Don't talk about this study. It wasn't here. So that is a really big problem that we still face when it comes to the dynamics of legalization of cannabis. In addition to law enforcement, and when it comes to family dynamics, there's always situations where you may have a divorce situation looming. Maybe one parent is holding this over the other parent, but if you're a medical patient, is that okay then? There's nothing in Missouri at this time that details that whatsoever. And so you have a lot of mothers that are still very fearful, even though we do have this organization and we try to provide, our members with legal services, financial services, anything that we possibly can as a small organization right now. They are still terrified of what they could come across. And
rightfully so. I mean, it's scary, and I'm, even scarier there. And unfortunately, the stories that Tanya's mentioning here are not unique. They happen all the time, and they happen out here. I mean, I had a friend that had the same, was kind of, she was racially profiled and actually harassed in the hospital at the birth of her second child because she was honest about using CBD only during her pregnancy, and had to deal with the whole testing the meconium, had to deal with the social workers coming in these moments right after she's given birth, and she's just trying to hold on to her very healthy baby city and stuff like that. And that happened here after legalization. Same thing in Oregon. We don't have an automatic expungement program here in Oregon yet. You know, there's many things that, you know, need to be considered here. I'm one of the founders of the Oregon Equity Investment PAC here, and we're actively lobbying a bill through the Oregon State Legislature right now that has to do with equity. And one of the things is free automatic expungement, because here we are. I mean, it's 2021, right? We had legal weed here in 2014, and she is still, you know, blocked from employment, blocked from housing, blocked from other services because of a cannabis offense that she had in like 2012 or something like that, along with a child protective services thing, like all these things. If her record was expunged, she wouldn't have issues with any of this stuff anymore. I mean, she's literally still living in the, like, kind of her own personal, I mean, she's not in prison, she's at her house, but her hands are tied with so many things she's able to do when, you know, there's people, you know, 4 blocks away walking into a dispensary buying weed every day. Yeah. So it's a huge conversation to be had, and one that needs to keep going. And that's why, you know, I feel like it is sort of a civic duty that we have to help these people, you know, that have had experiences like that, and the people like that you're talking about that are coming to you like, you know, like, can I talk to my doctor about this? Should I not talk to my about this? Like, should I just go ahead and keep taking the pharmaceuticals because I'm too scared to try to, you know, use cannabis? I mean, those are all very, very real stories, and it's happening all the time. And moms are definitely a group that are scrutinized much more than others, because we are generally the primary caregivers for our children, and we are judged very harshly for our use and for our decisions around our use.
Which is sad, because, you know, you have, I mean, you know, the whole wine mom thing is so openly accepted in the world, and then you have canna moms that are like, oh no, you know, she's a canna mom. But touching back on that story that you just said, though, kind of goes back to the racial discrimination part of this industry as well, because I know for a fact that had it been for a different color of my skin, different, you know, financial income level, maybe, I probably would not have taken my children home from the hospital. And my second son was 2 months premature, so he spent 2 months in the NICU. And again, they tested his Minicon. My morning sickness with him was twice as bad. I lost more weight in my first 3 months than I gained in my entire pregnancy. And I had placenta previa on top of that. And so it was a really rough pregnancy. But if it wouldn't, I truly believe, because I was at Research Medical, I saw the other side of that, and I saw minority children in there and how they treated those mothers. And there is a huge racial disparity here that needs to be addressed as well. And again, when you have a group of mothers, I think that voice is incredibly powerful in that as well.
So you guys are doing a great job. All I can think about is this like Native American grandmother that's like, hey, just give me this little leaf here, this little flower here, and whip this up. And
hey, we do have those members. I know one.
way before all this, you know, we're on drugs and everything. But we need to take a little break. Thank you, ladies, so much for the conversation. We're going to continue the conversation when we get back. We need to take a little break, check in with the CANNBIS project. They have a little update with some things. We want to give a few commercials to our sponsors. By the way, don't forget to tag a friend. We're giving away 2 free gift cards at COCO Dispensaries, a free certification from Elevate Holistics. We're going to continue this conversation with Kat King, that's behind the camera. She's been a part of the production crew ever since we started over a year ago, and she is. Are you Gen Z? You're millennial. She's a millennial. I'm so sorry. She's still okay. So, well, she's like sort of the next step down.
Am I a millennial? I don't even know what I am.
So you're between Gen Z and Tanya.
There you go.
So anyway, I thought it would be interesting to have her perspective. She doesn't have kids yet, and she's, of course, a female that has a perspective on cannabis, and she's seen all the shows from behind the lens, and I think it'd be cool to bring her on. So we'll get her 2 cents in the second half of the conversation. So let's take a little break and check in with the CANNBIS project.
Hey guys, Chris and Christina with the CANNBIS project. Hope you're enjoying the show. We've got a couple short updates for you this week, and we'll be out of your hair in no time.
So I just wanted to touch real briefly about the declaratory judgment that we have coming up on May 24th. We are currently suing DOC regarding patients on supervision's inability to access their medication or have access to their medication according to their POs. We are taking that straight to the top. Our board attorney, Tim Tessimone, filed this suit back a couple months ago, and what we're attempting to do is not sue for damages, but to sue for binding authority, formally recognizing our patient's ability to medicate while on supervision. We have been out collecting stories this past week from individuals in the community, trying to gauge what everyone's experience has been so far across the board. It's been that everyone has been denied ability to medicate, and some have even faced revocation. So that's something that we're trying to solve for everyone here statewide. Stay tuned. Again, that's May 24th at 10:30 in Jeff City. It's just a very preliminary hearing. It's just the council status, and we'll keep you updated as this all unfolds. And we appreciate all the support that we've received so far in this department. Next, we just want to really quickly update you again about Rob. He has his parole hearing on June 3rd for his release. That could happen anytime thereafter. They're shooting for an open date in July, but we're really hoping that something comes up earlier than that. So I want to thank everyone who has supported his GoFundMe that is aimed to help him reintegrate back into society. And anyone that has the ability to donate to that, please remember to do so. Every dollar counts, and you can find his GoFundMe on a bunch of different places.
You can find it on Instagram on our page there. You can find it on our Facebook page, CANNBIS Project. You can find it on our private group, the CANNBIS Project. On Facebook, you can also find it on our personal profiles. So if you're able to help Robert out with his reentry fund, please do. We really appreciate everything that you guys will pull through for us. But that's about all the update we have. I really want to say thank you to all the wonderful women that we have in the cannabis space. So many women have been fighting so hard for so long to free this plant and to free the prisoners. And without all these wonderful women, we really could not do this. So thank you, ladies.
Yes, thank you, ladies. You all have been such an inspiration to me personally, and I know you've been an inspiration to everyone else in the community. Keep up your good work. We love you. We've got your back 110.
Well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the show. We love you guys.
The Missouri Cannabis Industry Association has been our longest-running show sponsor, while providing quality education over many topics in partnership with area cannabis professionals. MCIA is dedicated to a free cannabis market to create supplies and prices that are patient-friendly, with initiatives to support adult-use cannabis, to protect home growers' rights, and expand the caregiving program. Go to mocia.org to learn about memberships, to learn about their certified caregiving program, and learn how to get involved. Thank you, MCIA, for being a show sponsor.
Headquartered in Kansas City, Clover is a cannabis-infused product manufacturer that believes in safe, consistent, and quality cannabis products for Missouri's medical marijuana patients. As the extractor, infuser, and wholesaler of their own products, they ensure patients are getting exactly what they are reading on the label. No chemicals, no funny business. Clover offers a variety of cannabis-infused products ranging from gummies and beverages to vape pens and concentrates, and offered from a variety of companies including Keef, Funnybone, Wanna, and Robots. Whatever consumption method you prefer, they've got it. At Clover's facility in Kansas City, they're excited to announce their new, high-quality, cannabis-infused Clover chocolate bars and bonbons with the help of chocolatier Christopher Elbow. Clover is excited to continue to launch brand new products in the Missouri medical marijuana market.
Getting a medical marijuana patient recommendation just got easier with Elevate Holistics. Using HIPAA-compliant telemedicine software, Elevate Holistics enables patients like you to receive medical marijuana recommendations from the comfort of their own homes. Here's how it works. First, Visit elevate-holistics.com to book your appointment using our online schedule. Then complete the intake forms in our confirmation email. Finally, visit with the doctor using the link in your confirmation email. It's that simple. Book an appointment today.
COCO Dispensaries and the Cannabis Care Team presents Cannabis Bootcamp. Do you want to know more about endocannabinoid system, methods of medicating, cannabinoids and terpenes, and Missouri Cannabis Industry? Do you want to become a bud tender and to help patients to find the best medicine for their needs? Or maybe, do you want to know how to manage your patient privacy and comfortability, the benefits of offering patient consultation, and the importance of consuming low and slow? April Hatch, Matt Cascio, Heidi Trout, Skyler Thomas, and Jamie Dennis will be there to teach you all you need to know to become a respected bud tender. Text bud tender to 660-202-6234 or scan this QR code to register and learn more. And join us on June 12, 2021 at 1225 Fellows Place, Columbia, Missouri 65201.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Evolution Live series. Just a quick house cleaning, tag a friend for the COCO Dispensary giveaway, tag a friend for the Elevate Holistics certification giveaway, bring them into this conversation. We are here with Leah Maurer live via Zoom, Tanya Roth, and we have just brought on Kat King, who has been a part of our production crew here since we started over a year ago. And Kat, I have some specific questions I'm going to just test you on the past shows that we've done, just make sure you've been watching. Just kidding, obviously. I just think it'd be cool for you to come on camera. You've never actually been on camera yet, and just kind of see what has it been like for you to be kind of behind the camera watching all these shows.
All right, jumping right in.
All
right. It's been so surprising that it's been a year now.
Yeah.
Can't believe that. This only happened because Clay and I are neighbors.
We're neighbors, turns out, yeah.
Like literally next door. So when COVID hit, we were a little crew and you threw this idea at me. And I'm going to be honest, I like knew nothing about the cannabis industry. I allegedly partook here and there.
Allegedly.
That's the thing to say. But
so you actually tell us a little bit about your back. So you do video editing for us as well. You're in a band. You do video editing for some other businesses. Give us your background.
Yeah, I majored in film and media at KU and ended up in Kansas City. Rock Chalk. Nice. So naturally was like trying to find jobs in the film industry. It's pretty tough to do that when you don't have experience. I ended up doing video production for a pest control company, which is where I left for a bit and I'm back there again after COVID. It just, needed something. But I was doing freelance videography alongside video production at a pest control company. So that was like my in into the video world. And since then have made a lot of connections and ended up, meeting you and having this idea thrown at me. So
and then here we are, you're over a year later, and we've done a show almost every weekly show. But you're also in a band. What's the name of your band?
Kat King.
Kat King. It's that simple.
I started as a solo singer-songwriter. And then have, through the years, grown into a full band. So
what's your genre?
We're indie pop rock. We're finally putting out some new music as a full band versus just me by myself, which is really exciting. And we've got a lot of shows in Kansas City coming up this summer. A lot. Well, it feels like a lot because of COVID, but we've got a few shows coming up this summer.
So do you use cannabis for your creativity? Is that part of your creativeness?
I do now.
Okay.
Yes.
After the show? After watching all these shows? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
It's It's all because of the show.
only because it's changed my life.
Yes.
Well, so let me ask you this. So like watching, hearing past like Leah's and Tanya's and do you do you see it being a part of your future, like going forward, or is this just like a little spin-off thing you're doing, or how is cannabis a part of your life? Let me ask it that way.
That's a good question. Both of you are making me think about this actually a bit more. I definitely at first was just like, sure, I'll try this. Had no idea it would continue on to what it is now. And now I'm at a point where I'm actually talking about it with my family in a normal way, which my dad used to be a pastor. And I'm like, hey, mom and dad, I'm doing film in the cannabis industry now. And I mean, that is something I would have never talked to them about, probably not comfortably, and not with, I feel like I have way more knowledge now. Even just referring to it as medicine is has stuck with me and made me way more confident in talking about it with my family. So in that aspect, I feel like it is something I am gradually becoming more passionate about.
Kat, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Along those same lines, do you feel like since you're employed by a company that's involved with the cannabis industry, now you can have these more candid discussions with your family about it, do you feel like it's changed their minds at all about, or their thoughts about the cannabis plant or the people that use it or work in the industry or anything like that?
I would definitely say so. I think before, before my family was just like, oh, there's Kat doing her thing. And now it's I think being able to come at it from a perspective of, or just having more knowledge behind what I'm talking about, and talking about getting to share so many incredible stories that I have heard through this show. And there's nurses in this industry, it's not a joke.
Yeah, Major Generals coming on the show talking about it.
Yeah, there are veterans on this show advocating for cannabis, and that is absolutely something I tell my family, and they are way more responsive to. And now they're all. Now I can freely bring it up and not even think about oh, I'm gonna bring up weed again.
Yeah. It's empowering to have professionals that are by your side, that are helping have these conversations, like Leah, like Tanya, like other guests we've had on the show before, that especially ones that are these high-ranking people that were duped out by the war on drugs on a massive scale of just taking stripes off their soldiers, and then all of a sudden they're admitting it live on camera on a live show, a little local live podcast. It's what the hell is going on here? But it's really cool to see. It was empowering for me. I came from the underground and never got to really have those conversations with my parents before it was too late. And so it's interesting to see that, from your perspective, you having those conversations and how impactful it is to have guests like this on our show and to see that. And what do you think, Tanya?
Well, I met Clay at a bar. I don't know if that means anything, but a bar in St. Louis, no less.
Yeah.
But and that was about 2 years ago, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way, and you guys are doing great. And Kat, you do an amazing job. So
Thank you.
I've kind of watched you work.
Yeah. I asked Kat that question going back to kind of, what Tanya said earlier is very different. Like Tanya was saying earlier, it often, people that are the real skeptics and naysayers, sometimes, the research and information isn't enough. It truly takes a firsthand experience. It takes your mother falling ill, or your sister, your good friend, or your child, or someone that you care about is struggling with some condition or some symptoms of something, and they're trying all the other things and they're not working, or the other things they're trying are having such adverse side effects, because that's what a lot of pharmaceuticals do, that their quality of life is severely being inhibited because of it. And so then they kind of try cannabis as the last, option, and then they're like, oh my gosh, it works. But lots of times it takes a firsthand experience. Well, this is like a little bit of a different firsthand experience for like, Kat's family, because it's like, well, now, she's healthy and stuff, but like now she has this like stand up, professional, employment position with a company that's involved with cannabis. So it's kind of a firsthand experience in a little bit different way, that still, at the same time, like normalizes the conversation at the very least, so that people can talk about it and they're not, you can see all you want from people that you don't know and you don't care about, but once it like sort of hits your inner circle of your family or your close friends or something like that, that's a lot of times when it really like kind of pops the can open for conversation or advocacy or whatever whatever it is. And like being a mom, something I've talked about a lot, and I'm sure Tanya would probably agree, like once you become a mother, you kind of become an advocate, whether you want to be an advocate or not, because you have these little, beautiful beings that are totally dependent on everything. So like you're going to advocate for your kids, whether it's their teacher, their coach, their doctor, another parent, whoever it is. So if cannabis is, an option for them for a condition that they're suffering or something like that, then you're going to advocate for that. And like, we see people like Wendy Turner, who it's literally changed their entire life, like that is what they do because of the experience they've had with Colton. And, there's so many, there's the story of Alexis Bortel. There's the story of like, Tracy Ryan and Canna Kids. Like there's so many women out there, especially like that have literally like sort of, found this new cause in their life because they've been forced to like have to change policy in order to fully advocate for their children.
And that's one thing. So Canna Matrix is actually working on a big project right now. I don't want to give too much of it away, but we're working on something with Lee with Hariom Hemp, who is a nurse on the Kansas side. She's been battling a lot against, for Kansas legislation. And we're working on a project right now to do just that, to give mothers a chance to tell their story and get that out there to the public, where there's a visual to it, there's emotion to it. It's not just something that you're reading online or something that you're reading in a research article that you can half understand. We're going to bring the real, raw, emotional stories to the public. And so maybe in some small way that can help Kansas legislation as well, and convincing legislatures on that side of the benefits of it and how you do have so many mothers out here. I mean, we have, Aiden of Aiden's Alliance and Zayden of Zayden's Coalition, are two children that their mothers are within our organization. And their stories were paramount to getting legalization here in Missouri. And they went on to create nonprofits to help low-income patients and minors to afford their medicine. So we love working alongside organizations like that and to be able to bring more of those stories, like Leah is saying, because you have to sometimes slap people in the face with stuff, right? I mean, we don't just take your word for everything all the time. We need proof, we need fact, right?
And speaking of Kansas legalization, just want to give a little insight of what's on its way. So we're working with Kansas NORML, the Kansas Coalition, and some other prominent leaders on the Kansas side to host the very first cannabis expo in Kansas. It's a little early to roll out all the details just yet, but it's going to be happening October 8th and 9th in Wichita. So more on that to come, but obviously this show is based out of Kansas City. We're shooting live here from Happy Rock Farms, which is not far away from the border. Most of our friends and families here in Kansas City live or work on one side or the other, so it's very important for us to make sure that our neighbors and our friends and families are safe. Just because you're a patient over here and go to work over there, all of a sudden you're not a patient. You can be picked up and face the full arm of the law is ridiculous. So we think that having this expo in Kansas is going to help open the eyes about the business that's going to come from it. It's going to bring in the mothers, the wives, the teachers, the lesson leaders that are going to help show these senators that are going to be voting on it in January. So more on that to come. I didn't mean to derail the conversation, but you said Kansas.
No, that's okay,
I wanted to.
Our project is going to kind of come into play on that expo as well.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well, we need all the women
Hand in hand.
leaders we can get on the Kansas side coming very soon, as well as other people like Leah that have done it in other states to give their wisdom and guidance to help see these last few states come through the legalization side. By the way, if you have any questions at home, please feel free to ask those questions. We got Leah Maurer live Zoom call from Oregon. We got Cat King Films jumping in front of the camera for the first time in a while, and Tanya Roth with the Canon Matriarchs. Ask a question, tag a friend for the giveaways. What else can we talk about? I want to talk about the dangers of adoption, right, or the adoption criteria, or even the dangers of being a mother who chooses cannabis as an access for their child who needs it for epilepsy, let's say. Like, how can organizations like yours help support these mothers that are dealing with those certain circumstances?
So we actually have one mother that joined when we originally started, and she actually gave up going for a cannabis business. She wanted to go for a dispensary, and she had the means and the background, the education, everything she needed to do it. But she also wanted to adopt a child. That was one of her dreams in life, was to adopt a child, and she actually gave up on her business ventures because she wanted to adopt a child, and she could not get any guaranteed answer that she could do that and own a business and be a medical patient at the same time, because there is absolutely no legislation or anything out there that outlines any of that. What organizations like we can do is we can help get into that legislation. We've had a little bit of a difficulty in doing that. It's overcoming some of the other organizations that are also writing it and letting us get in on it, because I feel like a mother's voice, when you're writing parental legislation, you need the voice of a mother's organization. And so we've been pushing, we've been trying to get in a little bit more on writing that and working with some other organizations. There are parental legislation laws that are being written right now. We have unfortunately not been able to have a say in it, but we're hoping to eventually be able to. And it's just a matter of not giving up and keep reminding people that Canon Matriarchs is an organization of cannabis mothers, and each one of us have a story, and every story is different, but we have a ton of stories of how cannabis has helped us, and we also have a ton of fears and unanswered questions that we need to have answered, and we're not going to give up until we have them answered. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep on advocating for it. We're going to keep organizing our organization and structuring it to where we can do that. We're going to get our 501c3 federal status. That will give us a lot more of a platform to stand on, and a little bit more of that clout that you kind of need. And we're just going to keep on rolling with it. And we're always welcoming members to come into organization and fill committees, chapter positions. We have advocacy, education, community service, member service, finance, marketing committees within our organization. And we always want to bring members in, obviously, and give our mothers and women the opportunity to fill all those positions. We would never go outside of the organization to do that. And we constantly focus on supporting women in general. And I think the more that we support and the more that we come together and the more that we show that we can be a force that works together. One of the first things people said to me when I started Canon Matriarchs is, "Oh, you're creating a women's organization. Within a year, you're going to implode because all these women are just going to start catfighting."
Okay.
And it's not something that is not a reality in some way, shape, or form. But we have managed since 2019 is when we started Canon Matriarchs. We've managed to keep it together because we do have that passion and that motivation and that desire for change within the organization. And as long as we keep focusing on that and empowering more mothers to find that within themselves, your voice just becomes that much greater.
Now, is it mothers and wives only, or is it for single women as well that are looking to get into that next level?
We use the term matriarch. Like we started out as Canon Moms. We had to do a name change due to a trademarking issue, so we went with matriarch because matriarch was a much more broad term. It doesn't necessarily mean a mother. I mean, a matriarch is kind of like the head of the household, it's the head of the family, it's the caretaker. So you could be a caretaker of a dog. You could have you could be adopted. You're a family member or something. We're very open. We like to say that we're a women's organization that focuses on mothers.
There you go.
But
and so
I always say if you nurture something, you're a mother.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And whether that's a human baby or a fur baby or a feathered baby or a garden or a company or an idea or a community of people or a nonprofit, like whatever it is that you're mothering or nurturing, I call it momming. Like we're momming this idea right now. We're momming this project right now. And
we are
like,
momming it.
I should have like clarified that when I said like once you become a mom, you become an advocate. I don't necessarily mean like when you physically give birth and have a baby, although I do believe that that is the case. But it's just like when you're finding that purpose of like, this is my thing that I care about, or my person or my thing or my idea or project or whatever it is that I care about. And this is where I'm putting all my time and energy because I want to see it grow. I want to foster it. I want to see it get better. Like then you're mothering it, whether you actually have children or dogs or, you know, whatever. You are momming it. And that is, you know, once you have that kind of drive, you know, you can just, you know, translate that sort of experience and that skill set into much bigger things, especially once you have a community of people that agrees with you that you can mobilize together. And finding those kind of communities of people, you know, that grassroots effort is so valuable. You almost can't put a price tag on it. It's a gold mine for anybody that's trying to, you know, push forward with policy change. It's exactly what they want.
Right, and we've even had mothers that have lost children. I mean, there's, you know, widowed mothers that were afraid to come into organization because they felt like they weren't mothers anymore. I'm sorry, but you're a mother. Like, you don't lose that maternal instinct. And so, you know, we brought them in and we kind of helped give them this, I don't know what you call it, but they loved it. They felt comfortable. They felt like they could be a mom again, even though they had lost their child. They felt that love again. And that was a really powerful thing for me to realize when those mothers came forward. So you don't lose that. It's that kind of motherly love and instinct and nurturing.
And my aunt, just to speak into that, because I'm a dude only from a dude's perspective, but my aunt gave me so much I felt like more like wisdom and advice, and she didn't have any kids. She was just my aunt. Then my own mom, and you know, so that's a
she's a matriarch.
She's a matriarch, you know. She gave me a lot of advice. So, totally. So, Kat. Kat, well, you don't have kids. You're not married. You're young. You're adventurous, but cannabis still plays a part in your life. But I know you're in a band, so have you ever thought about writing some good cannabis tunes, like with some good, like inspiring cannabis lyrics?
You know, I have a few songs that do reference cannabis in a very metaphorical way.
Yeah. So where your parents would have to like really ask you specifically what that meant?
Yeah, this was before I was on the show. No, I do. Cannabis has been very a valuable part of my life. Sure. In the recent years, so you're right about anything.
Yeah, totally. I just wanted to bring you into the conversation.
Thanks for trying.
Well, cannabis, you know, for creativity is something that's, you know, written about all the time, you know, whether it's you're a music artist or a performing artist or a visual artist or whatever it is. I mean, that's like, you know, one of the biggest things. I mean, there's a reason why, you know, jazz musicians loved weed so much. You know what
I was going to say that. That's how the jazz used to do it.
But it was
metaphors.
Devil's lettuce.
Oh, yeah.
Lettuce.
Jazz.
Yeah, totally.
So anyway, jazz. Great analogy there. Any other topics we want to talk about? I know this is. I feel like I shouldn't even be here because I'm a dude asking these questions, trying to get out the what it's like to be a mother or a female influence in your community or with your kids or your spouse. By the way, we do have a quick question. It seems like people want to know where Kat's going to be playing her next live show at.
Self-promotion time.
There you go, do it.
Go ahead, promote it up.
We have 2 shows coming up in June. On June 18th at West Bottom Flats, and then June 26th we'll be at Lemonade Park, which is in the Crossroads in Kansas City. Come out. That'd be awesome.
Where can they, in case they didn't catch that or they want to go find it later on, where can they go find out those addresses of those locations and things?
Follow me on social media. I post all of my shows, Cat King, Cat B King on Instagram, or Cat King on Facebook, or find us online. Like, we just released a song on Wednesday. Shameless plug. So anywhere you stream music, look us up.
So Spotify,
iTunes, yeah, all that good stuff.
Oh, awesome.
Then look up Cat King.
Cat King.
Cat King. Just
We
drop
should
a new
come down.
song.
We should get her to the September event. And
So,
bring you down there.
plug it. Let's plug that now.
Oh.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Plug in event time. So, one of the big events that CANNBIS hosts this year is, we started it last year, and we're doing it again this year, is the Mocana Fan Fest. And since I'm live, and I wish Ricky and Rachel could have been here for it, but we can't seem to get our schedules together. But this year, Mocana Fan Fest is going to be co-hosted by Missouri Cannabis Network and Ricky and Rachel Starling. So we're joining forces this year. We're going to make it bigger and better. It's September 16th through 19th. It's down at Kaplinger Woods near Stockton, Missouri. If you want to check out more information on it, right now we're not selling tickets yet. Tickets will be for sale in July, but we are accepting sponsors and vendors at this time, and you can go to cannamatriarchs.org/MCFF. You'll have all the videos, pictures from last year, what the event's all about. It's kind of like it's a camping event / business expo / concert all at the same time, all 420 friendly.
Same spot as it was at last year, which is a really cool venue,
it's
right
beautiful.
next to a river there. Tons of kids activities, a very family friendly event.
It's family friendly.
Lots of places for RV spaces, for camping.
And we're doing a 2-day festival this year versus last year. We just did a 1-day, so we're going to do the festival Saturday and Sunday, and it is a fundraising event. So this event fundraises money for 10 different nonprofits. We don't have all of our nonprofits picked out yet for this year because we're still early, but the ones we do have are Aiden's Alliance, CannaConvict Project, CANNBIS obviously being one of those nonprofits, Veterans Cannabis Project, and we're going to try to get Mother's Refuge, which is a nonprofit out of Independence, Missouri, who they home pregnant mothers that are like teenage pregnant mothers, and they take them through the first year of the baby's life. They get them all their resources, jobs, everything they need to take care of their baby and be a wonderful mother. So we totally support that.
What was the name of that organization again?
Mother's Refuge.
Mother's Refuge, okay.
And then we're working on picking out the rest of those nonprofits. And this year, I think we're going to set like a $20,000 goal. Last year, we raised $5,500, and so we were able to give each nonprofit $550. This year, we've got so much more support from the cannabis community and the businesses. I think we can do a lot more with it, and that's one of the ways that CANNBIS kind of helps break down that stigma. We show by doing. We show people that we can go out there and we can do community service. We can, take care of our families. We can do our jobs. We can advocate for legislation and mothers and everything else. We can do all these things. We're freaking superhumans, right? We're super moms. So, and then the other event that we've got coming up, this is for members only, actually. We do a members only event. If you'd like to become a member, again, cannamatriarchs.org, and you go to the Contact Us section. You can sign up to be a member. We are a membership-based organization. It's a $2 donation, or whatever you want to donate, but it's a minimum $2 donation. And you do get a lot of perks with that, including your own member chapter. We have 20 chapters now throughout the state that we're forming. Of Missouri, and we have a lot of members outside of the state of Missouri, so we're going to be looking to jump states here before too long and just keep expanding. But our members only event is an amazing event for members only. It's team building, it's floating. We've got self-defense class this year. We've got RSO 101 with Ashley Markham's mom, Deborah.
Nice.
She's going to come teach us how to make RSO. We've got meditation, we've got tarot cards, we've got painting classes, we've got a lot of fun activities, and it's a 3 to 4 day event. And again, it's camping and stuff as well. So we get moms out, and last year, I have to say this about our moms last year. We went down there, and the heat index hit 102, I believe, while we were down there last year. It was an insanely hot part of June. And we had 115 moms, I think, down there last year, setting up tents, building fires, cooking, just living in the outdoors. And then we had all these fun activities, and we had the river right by us. It was a freaking blast. I didn't hear a single person complain.
That's because there was no dudes there.
And everybody was helping each other. Like, all of these moms, you needed help with your tent? Oh, we're here. We got that tent up, man. So we didn't need no men. But it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, empowering mom vacation is ultimately what it is. And we still have tickets for sale for that. So definitely check that out on our website as well. So.
Awesome. Leah, would you like to plug anything you have coming up, or any podcasts or events or anything you have in the works you want to
We're trying to get her to come September.
I am trying to get there in September because I missed it last year because we were still, wiggling through the whole pandemic situation at that time. But I'm going to try to get back for it. It sounds great, and we don't really have stuff like that here in Oregon these days. So I love it that that's happening there, and like the community building that things like that offer is just. It's so valuable and so incredible that you're able to provide that for people. I don't really have any upcoming, I do have one speaking engagement with a group called Women Leaders in Cannabis next Thursday. And anyone that's watching, I'm more active on Instagram than I am on Facebook, but I gave James both my social handles, and I would welcome any follow-up questions or connections after this, session is over. If anybody wants to connect further about anything that I talked about, or anything that I have coming up in terms of speaking engagements, or any projects or anything like that I'm doing, I would certainly be very happy to dialogue with you about it. If you just message me on Facebook or on Instagram, either of those are great. Would love for everybody to go check out theweedblog.com. And just in case you didn't hear it earlier, anyone that wants to know about the CannaMoms thing specifically and the work that I'm going to be doing with mothers and women in Missouri specifically, please text MOMS to 420-420. The article that it'll take you to is one I just published today that puts out a lot of the content that I've been talking about this evening, and some other things that will hopefully give you all resources as well as inspiration for moving forward in your cannabis journey or non-cannabis journey, wherever you might be on it. But yeah, mostly I'm just really grateful. And obviously I, would welcome any Ask Leah questions for future issues of the Evolution magazine. I'm really, really enjoying that. A lot of the, writing I do, a lot of the freelance writing as well as writing for the WeBlog that I do is very advocacy centric, or it's very industry centric, or very policy centric. And getting to write the Ask Leah column is something that's so gratifying for me as a writer, because I'm speaking to basically new patients, or maybe new and a very long time users or something like that. And I try to, translate as much information as I can in those. So, if anyone has questions they would like to see addressed in the Ask Leah column, just get a hold of the Evolution magazine and submit them to them, and I'd be happy to take a look at those too. But I welcome any further dialogue after this live stream is over. And I'm just really...
And thank you for being on the show. And we will feature whoever has questions for Leah on that Ask column. I know it's easier to ask questions on a live feed, or but it's a little more time intrusive to actually sit down and type out the email of the question. But we think print publications, cannabis is bringing print publication back to life. So anything that we can help do to support you for taking the time out of your day to sit down and write the email to Leah about a topic you may have questions about, for her to write an article for our publication, we will feature you in the magazine as well, if you would like, or we can leave it censored. But whatever we can do to encourage you guys to reach out to her for advice. Obviously, you've heard her story now. You've seen the things that she's been through, the situations that she's been forced into, that she's gathered the courage to overcome and to reciprocate that back to the community as well. So we really appreciate you having on the show tonight, Leah. And so make sure to ask her questions. We have a few more seconds here, a few more minutes. If you have any last minute questions, type those in the comments. Anything you guys want to leave our audience with that I haven't thought about yet? Or I think we've kind of got our plugs in.
Yeah, we do a lot of plugs.
So next week, I'll do my plugs real quick to give you some final seconds for questions. So next Thursday, we'll be doing our live show from the Clover facility with local chocolatier Christopher Elbow. We're going to be sitting down with him talking about, in case you don't know him, he's a gourmet chocolatier that's very well known for the Kansas City area. I've never had a chocolate that was quite that good, and so we will have some videos on us eating those chocolates in our faces as they light up, and other video behind the scenes in his factory, his little Willy Wonka chocolate factory that we took while we're sitting down with him live from the Clover facility. That's next Thursday. We're also going to have a live show with MCIA the first Thursday of next month. That's going to be with Northwest Missouri State University, the new cannabis curriculum they have rolling out with Green Flower. We have the CEO of Green Flower, the program developer from Northwest Missouri State University. The following show, the second Thursday, we're actually bringing Daniel Jones, aka Waxy Brown, on the show. He hosts the Flower Power Hour, a local radio station in Rolla that's getting like 30,000 listeners each week with his show.
And Rolla Can, they do Rolla Can, which is another one of our nonprofits we're donating to this year. I forgot.
Yeah, so they're doing some amazing things in rural areas. So that whole show is going to be our veteran show combined with our active leaders in rural Missouri and how medicinal cannabis is affecting rural areas of our state.
That's a good one.
It's going to be a great show. We're going to bring his audience in. He's going to take clips of the show and play it back on his Flower Power Hour later that next week on his radio station. We're going to do a live show from Greenlight Cultivation Facility here in Kansas City. Maybe a little bit of a controversial show. There's some questions on the whole licensing thing, but they said that they're going to be open to answer any questions we may have.
There you go.
So that's all we're trying to do is bring the conversations to the table, bring the people that people have questions about, and let them answer those questions, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be next month, and also Casey Can Transport. Casey Snell, one of the very first transport companies to get their license to operate here in the state, will be doing a live show from their facility talking about all of what they did to get to where they're at, the veterans that are involved in their transportation company, and the security aspects of transporting medical cannabis around the state. So those are the few shows we have coming up next month.
I have one thing I forgot to plug too.
Yep, go ahead.
So we do have I think I lost my earpiece. Sorry.
No worries.
So we do have one event CanNBis is co-hosting coming up First Fridays with a merit, and it's going to be, the first one is Art of Cannabis. So that'll be the first Friday in June.
So by the way, this is the First Friday art walks.
Yes.
Every first Friday in Kansas City, there's the art walks that happen. It got kind of shut down because of COVID for a while. Before that, there was a little bit of a shooting or something that kind of slowed it down, but that's all coming back very fast. And didn't mean to mention the shooting, but it's funny.
It's going to be cool.
That's where I first met James, though, was like the very first Friday after that shooting. The very next first Friday, I met James with Mayor Lucas. James, our production guy that's behind behind the computer there, put on his own little KC Weed Blog party, brought in all these bands. Mayor Lucas, the Kansas City mayor, showed up.
Oh, nice.
We all met, and that started that whole relationship before James ever came on and was doing production work for us.
So come on down. You never know what's going to happen in the process. So, and then he's going to do that every first Friday. So it'll be first Friday in July, first Friday in August, and I believe CanNBis is going to co-host those events as well. It's patient certification. We're going to have a lot of cannabis art stuff there. We've got Emily Million coming, who is amazing.
On the cover of last month's or this most recent issue.
Yep. So she's going to be down there, and then we have a lot of other local cannabis artists in the community that'll be there, as well as businesses. So if you're interested in vending that as well, get in touch with me or JT with a merit. You can reach me at Tanya@CannNBis.org.
Cool.
I don't know JT's email on the top of my head. I'm sorry. Sorry, JT.
We'll put it in the comments later on.
Yeah.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps up the night here. I want to say thank you to Chris Dalton for letting us do this live show from Happy Rock Farms here in Kansas City. Thanks, Chris. Thanks to our production crew, James Thomas, Kat King, coming on camera for the first time ever.
It's awesome.
Hey, Mom and Dad.
Hey.
I like cannabis now. and the women here that have had those conversations way ahead of time, that are teaching us to have those with our friends and families and communities. So thanks, Leah Maurer, for coming to the show tonight. Appreciate it. Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you. So
let's support these organizations. Let's continue to come together as a community, support each other any way we can. We'll see you guys next week live from Clover's facility with chocolatier Christopher Elbow. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Peace, you guys.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And we're out, you guys.